Well, good afternoon. I think we're going to go ahead and get started, even though a couple people may still enter the town hall. First of all, thank you for attending this town hall today. This is our first town hall on Zoom, and it's great to see so many familiar faces here in the audience participation list. You're probably here to learn about the latest and greatest in ISyE at UW-Madison, and maybe you're interested in finding out ways to connect. And if so, then you're in the right place. I want to start by introducing myself. I know many of you who are here, but some of you, I may be a new person that you haven't met yet. I'm Laura Albert. I'm the department chair. I'm finishing my first year as department chair, but this is my 9th year as a professor at UW-Madison. I'm a full professor. I'm also a fellow of ISyE, the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers, and AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. I'm also president-elect of Informs. And I still have an active research program, and I'm still an educator. My research focuses on public sector applications of operations research, spanning cybersecurity, critical infrastructure protection, and emergency response. I've really enjoyed my first year as department chair, and hopefully you'll get a sense of that and what we've been able to achieve and improve the department in this past year. And what I've really enjoyed about being department chair is having more of an impact at scale. First and foremost, I get to support the department, including my fantastic colleagues and our fantastic students. And that's really the best part. Also, as a professor, I've really devoted my life to educating the next generation of industrial engineers in the classroom and in research. And I really like that part of the job. And as department chair, I get to kind of foster those types of efforts across the department, but also across the nation, because we are not just industrial engineers here by ourselves. We get to kind of shift and influence the field a little bit as in the department. And that's been really great to position our department so that our students and our graduates can really tackle the next set of problems that our world will face. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with some college updates and what's new on campus. And sorry, my computer's a little slow there. Some department and college updates, so what's new in the college. And then we'll move into the department focusing on an undergraduate updates. And we'll highlight ISyE Connections, a new mentoring program in the college. Next, we'll move on to our research updates, so faculty and graduate student updates, and we'll have a guest speaker who is a recent PhD student. We'll talk about his research for a few minutes. And at the end, I'll give an alumni update and outline some ways for you to stay connected. If you have a degree from our department, you are a Badger for life, and you're always part of our ISyE community. I've introduced myself, so I would like you to introduce yourselves in the chat. If you're so inclined, you can list your name, what type of degree you have, BS, MS, PhD, or all of the above, and what location you're in right now. I will also answer some questions during the talk, but I'm going to mostly try to save those for the end. So you can add questions to the chat at any time, but it might be a while before you get an answer. All right, so what's new on campus? There's a couple of big things happening in the college this year. The first was we had a pretty normal year. We had a return of in-person activities after more than a year of shutdown and remote learning, and it was fantastic to be back. It started with welcome events, and it was so great seeing students' smiling faces coming and meeting us all for the first time. And we had pretty much the same types of offerings that we did before the pandemic. It's the new normal. There were some modifications, but the same types of events, welcome events, department social events, which you'll see here, poster session, face-to-face classrooms. Again, we did have a mask mandate that ended at spring break. So we had to wear masks just indoors for about 3/4 of the year. These are some of the pictures that we have from some of our events this past year. I'm in one of them. I'm hard to find, so it's like a little bit of a Where's Waldo situation. If you find me, then that's fantastic. But you can see that we had a really great year, just kind of doing what we always do. And it was nice to see our students face to face. The college introduced a new website and the kind of the March timeframe, so it's actually pretty new. If you use the old website, it could be a little frustrating and didn't really help us out with search engine optimization. The new website is years in the making, and it is much improved, and they're going to continue to make refinements and optimize the search engine piece to that in the future. You can check it out. It's now engineering.wisc.edu. If you have the old website bookmarked, it'll take you to the new place, so don't worry about that. The website is really nice because it helps us tell our stories better. It's outward facing. It just makes us, we do so many great things and the world should know about them. And the website really helps us get our message out there. The next thing we are working on college-wide is the building, which is something else that's been years in the making. We haven't built a new building on this campus for a while, so almost 2 decades. The Centers building was the last one. And we really are bursting at the seams in terms of space, and a lot of our lab spaces are outdated. Now, I do computational research, so it's a little less critical to me individually, but college-wide, we just don't have the facilities to do what we do at the scale that we want. So we are getting close to starting to build this building, but it's not a done deal yet. What happened last year was that the state approved $1 million planning grant to help us plan the building. And the next phase is to actually get the building approved. So support from engineers and donors, of course, is greatly needed. And if you live in Wisconsin, and you can contact your state representative and senator to let them know how important this is. That's one concrete thing you could do to help us out. But we're hoping we make it through the last push. As our outgoing chancellor, Becky Blank, noted, it is really hard to build buildings in Wisconsin on college campuses. So we'd spend an all hands on deck to try to make this happen. Very excited about the new building. And I want to talk a little bit more about what that will do. So the final design isn't done yet. It will be a really big building. We will be tearing down 1410 Engineering Hall. There's a lot of administrative offices there right now. It's just not a building that is like suitable for engineering education, and definitely not labs. So we need to kind of make space for a big building. There'll be a lot of square footage in the building, and it will do a little bit of everything. So we'll have classroom spaces. This is where we'll put our new labs for classroom use. And it will also house a lot of space for faculty labs and research labs. And we just don't have any place to put new faculty. And if we want to grow the students' body, and we do, we need to be able to grow the faculty. For example, right now we have about 4,500 undergrad enrollment, which is pretty small for a flagship engineering university in the Big Ten. 8,000 might be more typical. We've been asked by people in the state to educate more engineers. There's a demand for students graduating with engineering degrees from Wisconsin, which is great. We just don't have the space to educate them. But we're doing everything we can to kind of meet that need. And we're just, we have many highly ranked departments, and our faculty disclose about 140 patents annually and inventions. So we are really producing world-class research. And all of that, the teaching and the research, will happen in this new building. So it's been exciting, and we can't wait to move into it, but we might be a little crunched for space in the next few years before this becomes a reality. Moving on to the department update, I'm delighted to say that our department continues to be highly ranked. We are top 10 in both our undergraduate program and graduate program. This is top 10 in all universities, public and private, and we are awesome. And thank you for your support to help us with this. And it's really our reputation, thanks to our amazing alumni and also our world-class faculty, that really have made this have made us a highly ranked department year in and year out. Digging in a little bit deeper to our student enrollment, we have a lot of students enrolled in our program, and we'd like to expand, especially at the undergraduate level. We have 342 enrolled currently. We've 66 in our master's programs, and those have been really healthy and growing. We started 2 professional master's programs about 5 years ago in systems engineering and analytics and health, human factors and healthcare systems. And they've been really popular and have helped prepare students for a variety of jobs where there are a lot of shortages right now. So they're kind of serving the country well. And we have 58 PhD students, which has been pretty stable for us with about 20 faculty members. So we have in total 466 students. We have started an undergraduate mentoring program called ISyE Connections. It's in year 1, and we already have 24 students partaking in that, which is a really good start. And we have 85 students enrolled in and active in our student orgs. And of course, many students are active in many other things outside of the department. I mentioned that there's a demand for our students, and 94% of them have placement after graduation. So this is like right after graduation. And this may still be the highest in the college, at least it was a year or 2 ago. So our students are able to get really good jobs right when they graduate. In terms of student demographics, we have, I think, the highest female or second highest female enrollment in departments in the college, 37% female. And over time, we've become a more diverse department in terms of race and ethnicity. But of course, we still have a lot more work to do. And we have some of the numbers here on the slides. What's notable is that we have a pretty highly international student body. This is mostly at the master's and PhD level. But we have students, the best and the brightest from all over the world, getting degrees and earning degrees in our department. So it's pretty cool to see that, to see us be a destination for that. After graduation, our students go all over the world and definitely all over the US. And many of them stay in Wisconsin, and Minnesota and Illinois are kind of our second and third place destination states. We are able to support many of our students with scholarships, thanks to the generosity of alumni and department supporters. We average about $137,000 in scholarships, and this is to undergraduate students. This is really meaningful because, especially after this pandemic, there's a lot of student need, and the student need is actually higher than this dollar amount, but it's really great to be able to help as many students as we can keep college affordable. We gave out 70 awards to 38 students, so many students get 2 smaller scholarships. And we have 14 department scholarship funds and 10 at the college level. Many of our alumni have even started scholarships pretty recently, and they tell me that it's pretty easy to start a scholarship. So if you're interested, we'll have some ways to contact us at the end of the talk. In terms of our research expenditures, we're just a great department. We do outstanding research, and we do outstanding with education as well. But in terms of research, we average $3.5 million in research expenditures, again, across about 20 faculty members who are doing research. That puts us at #1 in industrial engineering programs in the country in terms of research dollars per faculty member. So that's one kind of frame of reference. We're also ranked #1 in terms of faculty scholarly productivity, and this is via academic analytics. So that's like what we do with that research funding in terms of turning it into publications and awards and research outputs. So I have really great colleagues, and the research we do here is really impactful and makes a difference. A little bit more about our research agenda. We have currently 50 active grants. We publish about 110 research papers in peer-reviewed journals per year, which is a lot per faculty member, which is a pretty impressive amount. And we're still going after more grants. So our faculty continue to submit research proposals. We have 28 out right now for about $22 million in funding. And they won't all get funded, but our faculty are doing what they can to kind of support the research mission, which is one of the things that really makes our department great. And now I'd like to hand things off to Dr. Amanda Smith, who is our Associate Chair for Undergraduate Affairs, to dive a little bit deeper into the undergraduate program.
Yes, thanks so much, Laura, and thank you all so much for joining us today for this virtual town hall. I'm so glad to be with you all today. I also apologize for any background noise you might hear. I am at a coffee shop off the highway in the middle of Indiana. Long story, so I will try to keep this short and sweet and apologize in advance if you hear strange sounds or see weird movement behind me. I am in a place that I was not expecting to be in. So with that, I'm really excited to be able to share a little bit. I'm not going to talk too much. Happy to answer questions after we're done with our talking. I just want to highlight a couple of the big developments in recent months and the last couple of years in our undergraduate program. I am the Associate Chair for Undergraduate Affairs, as Laura mentioned. I am also joining this town hall as a 3-time alum of the department. I did my bachelor degree back in 2013, master's degree in 2016, and then PhD most recently in 2018. So it's great to be here both as an alum and also as a member of the department that I love so much. So if you go to my next slide here, I have a couple of things that I just wanted to talk briefly about in terms of what's going on these days in our undergraduate program. Some of you may know that we adopted a new structure of our undergraduate program in 2020, basically just removing some old required courses that weren't really relevant to students anymore and replacing that with a little bit more variety in the electives that students were able to select, as well as offering the ability for students to choose a focus area within industrial engineering. So we've had that structure of curriculum for a couple of years now, and we are continuously trying to improve our curriculum and our student experience. And this is a couple of the ways we try to do that. Obviously, we get a lot of feedback from students and we see how things are going in the program, but we also love getting feedback from all of you, our wonderful alumni. And we're also making inroads now in some exciting mentorship opportunities within the department. So I'll talk briefly about each of those. But first and foremost, I just want to say that we're all industrial engineers. So we know the value of continuous improvement. And that is really what we try to do as a department, as a program, especially in regards to our undergraduate curriculum, since training the engineers of the future is, of course, our first and foremost responsibility. And I am really excited to be playing a role in that. And one of the things that I do a lot in my role is collecting data from our undergraduate courses and making sure that we are teaching students the things that they really need to know to be successful. And in our most recent attempts in this area, we've identified some areas that we can continue to improve. This is, again, also based on feedback that we've gotten from all alumni such as yourselves. So we're really focusing our next round of improvements in these 4 areas listed on the slides. Experimentation and data analysis. Obviously, data science is the thing that everybody needs to be able to do now. We want to get better in this area as well. We always want our students to be recognizing professional and ethical responsibilities. So obviously an area that we want to strive for excellence in. Effective communication skills. All of you are well aware that as engineers, we're sometimes stereotyped as not always having the greatest communication skills, but I think this is obviously really important to succeed in the workplace. So we want our students to be excellent at communication as well as engineering. And faculty connections. We're always looking for ways for our students and faculty to build relationships, find more opportunities for students to get involved with things like doing research with a faculty mentor, having a faculty advisor give grad school advice, career opportunity advice, things like that. So these are the 4 main areas that we're focused on. And to supplement this, we also recently administered an alumni survey. We send this out every 6 years to recent alumni of the program. Some of you probably got that. Thank you to those of you that completed it. If you haven't completed it yet and you did get the email, there is still time. Please go back through your email, see if you can pull it out and fill it out. It'll only take 10 minutes. We really value your feedback. We'll use this to further supplement our continuous improvement efforts. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, which has a whole slide dedicated to it because it's such an important thing that we are working on right now in our program, is the ISyE Connections Mentorship Program. So if you wouldn't mind clicking on to the next slide where I talk a little bit about this mentorship opportunity that we're exploring. This is pretty new. It was created by a group of really awesome students a couple years ago. I peeked in the chat. I don't think any of them are here today, but if you are here, you joined after I looked at the chat. Shout out to those of you who are involved in making this happen. Thank you so much for your leadership on this. This really is for students by students. The department is supporting this and sharing resources as needed, but we really are excited that students have taken this on themselves and they're making this happen. Our students are amazing. I love our students so much. They impress me every day. And this is just one way that they've been doing that with this ISyE Connections program. Basically how it works is mentors and mentees can sign up to be involved. Anyone who is a current ISyE student right now is eligible. Students who are a little bit further along in the program are mentors. Newer students or even prospective students who aren't yet in the program sign up as mentees. They get matched based on interests and availability and schedules and things like that. And then the mentors reach out to their mentees throughout the semester. They meet a couple times, give advice on classes and finding internships and anything else that students or prospective students might need advice on. This just started in fall 2020, so it's still very new. It's been growing. As you can see, it's still kind of small. We have 10 mentors and 14 mentees currently active in the program, but it's growing every semester, and we're really excited to see this program continue to grow, maybe even eventually beyond the bounds of current students to include alumni as well. So that's something that is still very early in the planning stages, but keep your ears open. You never know, you might get an email from me or someone in the department at some point to see if you might be interested in being involved in the future of our ISyE Connections program as we continue to grow and hopefully include more people, because our students obviously would benefit from hearing from alumni as well as current students. So this is something I'm really excited about, the department's really excited about, and I'm really grateful and impressed again to our awesome students who are doing this. So that was basically everything I wanted to say. I know we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So if you have any questions about any of that or anything else related to our undergraduate program, I look forward to talking more later.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Amanda's doing a great job with our undergraduate program, makes it easy for me. But I want to talk a little bit more about our faculty and graduate students, especially on the research side. So this is a picture of our faculty. We've got 20 faculty members, or at least we will in the fall, as well as 6 teaching professors and lecturers that really are heavy lifters in terms of teaching our students. I'm delighted to announce that we have 2 new faculty joining us in the fall. Dr. Tony McDonald, who's currently at Texas A&M, who's an expert in human factors and analytics, and Dr. Hentang Chen, who's joining us from Iowa State University, and he does manufacturing in outer space. So both will really help us kind of grow our research portfolio and important directions for our department. I mentioned how productive our faculty are, and this is a list of awards by faculty and graduate students this past year. I won't read them all, but we are a well-recognized department, and it's great to see my colleagues and our students get the recognition that they deserve for their great research. Next, we want to introduce you to one of our PhD students and his research, and that's going to be Adam Schmidt. He defended his dissertation 1 week ago, and he plans to submit his dissertation by the end of the summer. Adam is a student who works in my lab. He also did his undergraduate degree here in our department. So he will be a multiple degree recipient, and he's a native of Wisconsin. Adam is on the call, and I'll let him tell you about some of his research.
Thanks for that intro, Laura. So in our research, we study how we can improve the resiliency of election voting systems using industrial engineering principles. And I wanted to begin by highlighting and explaining why we think it's important to study these systems. So election voting systems are a component of the critical infrastructure within the United States. And the designation of critical infrastructure is reserved for assets that are considered so vital to the nation that their incapacitation or destruction would have a debilitating effect on security, national economic security, national public health or safety, or any combination of these. And the elections held during the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the vulnerability of our voting systems to different election conditions. And this motivated the need for analytical tools that could predict how different voting system designs would perform under a range of election conditions, and motivated the need for analytical tools to support election officials when planning voting systems. And this is a challenge that we tried to address within our research. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so in our research, we had 3 main projects so far, but there's plans for more. In our first project, we studied how we could design voting systems that were resilient to pandemic-related conditions. We used a discrete event simulation to first assess how a pandemic changed the voting process and how that impacted key voter metrics. And then we assessed different mitigating practices that election officials could use to respond to pandemic-related changes. We also then studied in our second project how we can use mathematical tools to support election officials in determining when and how to consolidate polling locations to best serve the voters in their jurisdiction. And to do so, we formulated the constraints and criteria that election officials had to follow using integer programming, and then used a case study to investigate some implications for practice. In our third project, we've begun researching how we can use optimization to locate or identify locations to place ballot drop boxes throughout a jurisdiction in a way that addresses the trade-off between cost effectiveness, equity, and access to the voting system, and risks related to the Dropbox infrastructure. And in the next few slides, I'll just provide a brief overview of some of our research related to the consolidation of polling locations. So that project, yeah. So again, yeah, in this research, we model the constraints and criteria that election officials should follow when making these decisions as an integer program. And using this integer program, we can use mathematics to model the dynamics, the key dynamics of the voting system. So we capture the dynamics related to distance between voters and their polling location. We can also capture the dynamics between the key voting resources that facilitate the election and the capacity of different polling locations to actually utilize these resources. We capture, or we mathematically model the wait time that voters actually experience on election day once arriving to their polling location that would result from our decisions. And we also can capture the contiguity of voting districts using mathematics. And then using this integer program in a case study, in our research, we investigate implications for practice. And you can move to the next slide there. So in this research, we use a case study of Richland County, South Carolina. And in our case study, we specifically study the trade-off between the need at all to, the desire not to make changes to the voting system, the amount of wait time that voters experience at their polling location, and the distance that voters ultimately have to travel to their polling location. And we're interested in this trade-off because each has been shown to influence voter participation. And in the next 2 slides, I'll just highlight 2 of the practical implications that are identified or highlighted by our case study. So first, we find that in some cases, it's optimal to actually consolidate polling locations in response to shortages or disruptions to a supply of critical voting resources like poll workers or voting machines to best utilize these resources during an election. So here are some of our results to a case where we reduced the number of voting machines that would be available to a jurisdiction. And in each of the maps here, we have the optimal consolidation decisions where the assignment of voters to different polling locations is indicated by a line. So what you can notice is that as we reduce the number of voting machines available, the polling locations ultimately become consolidated to best utilize these resources and to reduce the amount of waiting that voters have to experience at their polling location on election day. And you can advance the slide now. And then the second implication for practice that I wanted to highlight is that we studied the value of large and strategically located buildings to consolidation efforts. So we find in our results that in certain situations, a large number of voter precincts are assigned to a small number of polling locations. And when we looked at these polling locations in more detail, we found that They have a high capacity to serve a large number of voters, and they lie along major highways within the county. So in a way, a large number of voters can reach these polling locations quickly. So we wanted to quantify the benefit of these locations. So what we did is we re-identified optimal consolidation decisions, but restricted the solution from including these locations in the decisions. And what we found is that the total amount of added time that voters have to travel to their polling location on election day is substantially higher when these weren't able to be used, which highlights the value of them. And then we found that it is important to find these large strategically located buildings during planning efforts, well before an election occurs, in a way that would allow election officials to be responsive to changing election conditions, while also reducing the amount of burden placed on voters by these consolidation decisions. And you can advance to the next slide. So that's all I'll say about that project. But in general, I think what we're beginning to show with our research is that industrial engineering principles are invaluable to supporting election resiliency. And this is because we can model and study each of the key dynamics of voting systems using industrial engineering principles. Right? So voting systems are defined by multiple stakeholders and criteria, uncertain but malleable voter behavior, stochastic processes, and discrete resource allocation decisions. And again, each of these we learn how to study and model and address with industrial engineering.
Well, thank you, Adam. That was great to hear a summary of your research.
Of course.
Moving on to alumni, and I know from being chair for just a year even that alumni tell me how malleable the industrial engineering toolbox is for addressing a lot of different applications in industry and in government and beyond. There we go. So there's a couple of ways that alumni stay engaged with our department. One is our industrial advisory board. And here are some pictures of our current board members. We've got some openings and we're working on filling those openings. I've noticed that several of our current board members and former board members are here today, and I appreciate their support. Our industrial advisory board is so critical to the functioning of the department. You heard from Amanda that we're always working on continual improvement to everything that we do, our curricular questions or degree requirements, preparing students to meet future challenges, and getting the feedback from the board has been really helpful in us making meaningful changes. We also stay involved with our alumni through giving awards. So we have a few major awards, and these are at the college level. And some of our award winners are here today. Thank you for coming. We had to skip a year due to the pandemic because we couldn't really properly honor people. So we were able to hold a new reception this past year. Next year, we are honoring Michelle Ranavat, who's the founder and CEO of Ranavat Botanicals, as our early career winner. And we're also honoring Ernest Nicholas, the Chief Supply Chain Officer at Rockwell Automation, as our Distinguished Achievement Award winner. So if you know them, congratulate them, and you can congratulate anybody on this list. And I want to end today's talk by reminding you that if you're an alum of the department, that you are part of our community for life, and we're always welcome to, we always want to welcome you back and interact with you and hear about your latest and greatest. There's a few ways you can connect with us. One is on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, which is pretty new, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So we did add a new LinkedIn group this past year, actually just in the fall. So this has been a really great way if you like our department to get our updates. You can also contact us if you're interested in just talking to students through student groups or even through classes. So we've got a Welcome Back Badger speaker series where alumni share their career journey with current students. And it's really nice having different career stages. Talk to students. They actually like hearing it all. So don't be shy about volunteering if you feel like you're too early or you're probably not too early. We are also planning some more social events in the future. So one will be our first annual all college homecoming tailgate party. for our homecoming this fall. So homecoming is October 22nd, mark your calendar, and we will be playing Purdue. And finally, if you want to support students, research, development initiatives, or start a scholarship, you can contact Tom Van Wy. His email is here on the slide. And if you want to just contact somebody in the department about just anything else in terms of connecting, Jane Feller, who's our communications specialist, is the great point person to contact first. And of course, you can always shoot me an email. Well, thank you for attending, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. And Adam and Amanda might be here as well to answer questions. Well, it doesn't appear that there are any questions. Oh, there might be a new one. Oh, thank you. Thank you, and congrats again to Michelle for actually speaking to our department this past year and being recognized as an early career award winner. All right, so I think we're going to wrap things up for today. Thank you for participating in our first ever Zoom town hall event. It was great to see some friendly faces and familiar faces on the call, and drop us a line. Take care, and on Wisconsin.